74-year-old German author and journalist Jurgen Todenhofer recently managed to get extraordinary access to one of the world's most notorious groups. For 10 days, he lived with and talked to members of Islamic State. Joining us now from Italy is Jurgen Todenhofer. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Yours was an extraordinary journey into this part of Iraq and Syria. When one considers that journalists have been killed, not just killed, they've been brutally killed by ISIS, they've been beheaded. What gave you the initial idea to go to this region and meet with ISIS?
I was writing a book about IS, and at a certain point I realized that I needed authentic material. And so I wrote to 80 German jihadists, 15 answered, and at the end I had discussions with 2 of them. One was from IS, and during 7 months we had hard discussions about their ideology. And I asked them an invitation. I said, I want to come to your country and to see what is really happening. And the problem was a guarantee. And at the end, I got an invitation from the office of the so-called Caliph. And I had to decide if I could trust this invitation, and I decided to trust it. And I was right.
How did you make your way to the area?
It was a long way. It was via Turkey, and then we went to Raqqa, and from Raqqa in Syria, we went to Mosul in Iraq. And then we had many opportunities to speak to people. We lived always together with fighters. There was a censorship, clear censorship. They controlled all the photos my son made, and at the end they took off of 800 photos, they took 9 photos off for security reasons, because they showed foreign fighters from Germany or from France or from Asia, and this could have created a problem for their relatives, and I agreed to delete these photos. But apart from that, there was no censorship.
Right. It's also interesting that you mention your son who went with you. Were you not concerned for his welfare? How old is your son?
But the guarantee was also for him. I didn't want to take him with me, but he insisted, and he said, if you don't take me with you, I will destroy all your contacts to IS and all your Facebook contacts, and technically he's much stronger than I am. And he insisted so much that I was obliged to take him with me. This was my biggest problem.
Now, the goal of IS, or ISIL, as they're also known, is to establish a caliphate, an Islamic State in this particular region. Did you see any evidence of a functioning state there, that this could manage on its own?
This is what I have seen in Raqqa and what I've seen in Mosul and Deir ez-Zor. This is a state. I don't say it's a fantastic state. It is a working state, with police and with hospitals and with traffic police and with educational system. It is a state.
So they talk seriously about killing millions of people?
I had to take it serious, because whatever they said, they did it. They said in Mosul, we will kill the Shias, and they killed them. Mosul, I knew Mosul, I was in Mosul 12 years ago. This was a multi-religious country with Christians and Shias and Yazidis, and now there is no one single Christian anymore. 130,000 left. Thousands of Shias were killed. The Yazidis had to flee. So unfortunately, you have to take serious what they say, very serious. And they said, we will conquer Mosul, and if half a year ago somebody would have said, this IS group will conquer Mosul, a big city, 3 million city in Iraq, everybody would have said, you are crazy. But they conquered it. 400 people, IS people, fought down 25,000 Iraqi troops. And what you have to have in mind is that the country they are running, it's a totalitarian country, of course, is bigger than Great Britain. Bigger than UK. That's not peanuts. It's a very serious danger.
Right, and what kind of cooperation do they get from the local population? As you pointed out, there are a number of hundreds of foreign fighters there. What kind of interaction is there with the local people?
I think one has to make a difference between Syria and Iraq. In Iraq, the Sunni population is supporting IS and is supporting also the foreign fighters, because in Iraq, the Sunni population of a city like Mosul has been discriminated by the Shia government of Maliki for more than 10 years. So the population of Mosul accepted, received them, and said they are better than our actual government. In Raqqa, it's a little bit more difficult. In Raqqa, you have several groups. In Raqqa, President Bashar al-Assad is also strong. But in the Sunni areas of Iraq, they are very, very strong, and also in the Sunni areas of Syria.
Now, insofar as how they finance themselves, the Guardian newspaper reported that they've taken over something like half a dozen very big oil fields, and they're exporting this oil on the black market through Jordan, through Turkey, and to some extent through Iran. Do they seem to be financially stable?
I think they have enough money to fight. I'm not sure if they have enough money to run a country. And you have to see, for example, the American position. When IS was strong in Syria, the Americans didn't care about that. But when IS got parts of Iraq and took under control the so-called strategic pipeline, the most important pipeline of Iraq, then the Americans interfered. So this shows that their position in Iraq is very strong, and they have a huge control over oil in Iraq, and that's very important for the United States. And therefore the United States started to interfere.
Did you manage to talk to any of the foreign fighters, and what did they tell you? Because we've been seeing reports here that tell us that many of these foreign fighters say that they're disillusioned with what they've seen about what ISIS is doing in that part. Did you hear from them?
I have seen maybe 200 foreign fighters. I saw foreign fighters everywhere. I saw foreign fighters in Raqqa. In Syria, we have probably 70% of the fighters are foreign fighters. In Iraq, 30% of the fighters are foreign fighters. And you see these fighters in the Iraqi city of Mosul in the streets. You see Swedish people, you see American people, you see Asian people, you see Germans, you see people from all over the world. And you see, this was very surprising for me, an incredible enthusiasm among these people. And the last 2 days I spent near the border to Turkey in a kind of recruitation or recruitment center, where every day more than 50 people from all over the world arrived. The last guy I spoke with was somebody from the Caribbean. He just has passed his law exam 4 weeks before, but he preferred to fight for the Islamic State instead of making a brilliant career in the Caribbean as a lawyer. So they have not only people that we would call losers, who didn't make their life in the Western countries, they have also very successful people. This is not only a terrorist group. They have built and founded a country, and they are very strong. They have a very brutal and very clear ideology to create a new world where Islam will run the country and will allow only Jews and Christians to coexist, but other religions would have to be killed. That's their ideology, and this ideology seems to be very convincing to young people who come from Western countries where they are discriminated by the population, where they are not accepted by the population in our countries. I think also our military strategy is completely wrong. We are bombarding these people. You know, Mosul is a 3 million city. 3 million people live in this city, but this city is controlled by 5,000 foreign fighters, 5,000 IS fighters. So how can you defeat 5,000 soldiers in a city of 3 million people by bombardments? You have no chance. They don't live on one single place. They live in different houses and different flats, and you have no chance with bombardments. And you have no chance even if the Americans would send boots on the ground, if they would send their special forces or the Marines, they would have no chance against them. The only group who could be able to fight them down are the moderate Sunni Iraqis. The Sunni Iraqis have a chance to defeat the radical Sunni IS, but they will do it only if they are integrated in their country. And since 10 years, they are completely disintegrated. They are in jail. They lost all their jobs, and they are not happy with their government. And as long they are not concentrated, as long as they are not integrated, they will not fight against IS. If one day they will be integrated, there is a chance that they will fight against IS, and they will have a chance to win. But nevertheless, IS is very strong.
Well, the United States and its allies have been carrying out a bombing campaign against ISIS targets, against IS targets. And it tells us that they have downgraded some of their capabilities. Do you see any evidence that their capabilities have indeed been downgraded?
I think the bombardments of the Americans had a certain effect, for example, in a place like Kobane, because in Kobane many IS fighters were concentrated. I think this was a military mistake from IS, but usually the fighters don't stick together. They are guerrilla fighters, fighters in big cities, and you cannot knock them down with bombs. No chance.
The United States is sending in more troops into the region. These are troops, they're called advisors. Can ISIS, in your view, be threatened, be defeated by a US invasion, by an allied invasion again?
No, but I want to say something else. I think the Americans can send as many troops they want. IS would like the Americans to send their troops. You have been talking about these horrible beheadings. They are doing these beheadings to provoke the Americans because they want the Americans to come. They want to fight the Americans. And there's another thing that one shouldn't forget. IS is a child of the Iraq War of George W. Bush. IS started to exist immediately after the invasion in 2003. So we can continue to bombard cities, to kill innocents without any military effect. The only thing that we will do, we will create new terrorists. All the wars we made in Afghanistan or in Iraq or in Libya were terror-breeding programs. Bombarding is not the strategy. We should give the opportunity to the Arabs to fight IS down, and we should keep out. We should not try to run the Arab world as we have done for 200 years.
While you were visiting this particular region, did you at any time feel that people were being suspicious of what you were doing there, of what you were talking about? Did you feel your life, or your son's life for that matter, was threatened at any time?
We had a deal. I had a deal. I had this paper from the Caliph's office, and this paper made a big effect, but I discussed every day with the fighters I met their ideology. I said, your ideology has nothing to do with Islam. I have read the Quran several times, and I said the Quran is a religion of mercy, but it's not talking always about the sword, and there is no mercy in your strategy.
Jurgen, I have 5 seconds. Will you go back? Can you go back?
I don't know. I have criticized IS so much that I doubt that they would allow me to come again.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. That's German journalist Jurgen Todenhofer talking to us. When we come back, what's the most effective strategy against ISIL? We will hear from an American military expert and a former Islamic extremist. Stay with us. You're watching The Heat.